The second season of Gossip Girl is back on December 1st for some ungodly reason. So in lieu of the new trailer dropping, I decided to make a video on my thoughts of the last season of the reboot. When it was first announced, I was ecstatic. Gossip Girl for a new generation, it had a mature rating. It was going to be on HBO Max, so I figured it must be good, right? Like, HBO doesn't make bad shows, which is true, but HBO Max does. Something I would find out the hard way watching the series the first time around. I was in awe at how bad the writing was. For one thing, I felt absolutely nothing for any character except for Max. I want to care for Monet, for Julienne, for Zoya, and even for Shan, but the only thing that they have going on is their black girl magic, and nothing else. All these black girls on the show and nothing about their blackness is written about. I would love to see where Zoya gets her hair done, how Julienne feels about being a biracial girl with no black parent present in her life. There doesn't need to be a prejudiced storyline, but I would love to have some type of blackness on the show. Otherwise, these characters act like colorblind props and it makes them hollow. Hopefully that will be corrected in season 2. Another correction I would love to see is that they need to change the way the characters do their takedowns, because all throughout season 1, it was giving Disney Channel. You want to write about a new generation and how they operate. No one is flat out mean like in the original Gossip Girl. Now people cloak their bad behavior with virtue signaling. Think Do Revenge or Senior Year. It was clear that the writers were way over their heads and trying to make a series about Gen Z, touching on socially conscious issues and trying to make it Gossip Girl. An impossible feat, it turns out. It's sad how I can watch 12 episodes of a series and only one character stands out to me. Now looking at the main characters, we have Julienne, a girl who's hungry for adoration because of a neglectful father, and a mom who abandoned her and who died. We have Zoya, a young girl with a chip on her shoulder from people constantly betraying her. She has a loving father and a late mother who died while giving birth to her. We have Audrey, who's type A, is neglected by her parents, especially her mother, who's a depressive since her husband left her for the assistant. We have Aki, whose 88-year-old father is a media mogul with no soul and is used by everyone in his life. We have Obi, whose family is wealthy from unethical business practices, and he is the black sheep but also the favorite child. Then there's Max, a wild child in the middle of a divorce between his dads and the only character who I gave a crap about. So what made Max so impactful than everyone else? From all the descriptions, you'd think that someone would be just as impactful as Max. Well, it's all about execution. Listen, these are just my thoughts. I'm not an expert on TV writing. I'm just spouting out my opinions. So first off, let's look at the sisters, Julienne and Zoya. They are estranged sisters just forming a familial relationship, and they both share a deceased mom. The show's main problem with these two is that it never outlines their relationship. One minute they're enemies, practically strangers ready to destroy one another, then one minute they're sisters fulfilling their mother's wishes, trying to know one another. It's confusing and it's exhausting. Another thing that doesn't work with these two is in regards to Julienne, is that no one knows who she is as a character. We don't know who she is. She's lost her identity behind the influencer facade, but we also don't know her motivations. Most times in the show, we see her do a series of actions that don't seem to fit an MO. How am I supposed to feel for a character who even the show doesn't know? And then you look at Zoya, and she's sympathetic, but not enough for me to care. She seems too one note. She always reacts the same way, very confrontational to everyone. She needs more dimension. I feel like I always see angry social justice warrior Zoya, not enough sad Zoya, vulnerable Zoya, etc. The family issues between these sisters are great material to expand upon. I would love to watch these two really bond. Maybe when they try to get to know more about their mom and why she abandoned her first family, the show, if it can handle it, can correctly show how these two can come together as sisters, being two individuals from broken families, choosing to come together and to form a familiar bond. It would be very interesting to see. And then when looking at the other characters of the show, they all have the Zoya problem. They're all one note. As the show goes on through their lives, you truly don't feel for the characters because they don't show any vulnerability. When Audrey's mother was in the hospital, we get a scene of the gang hugging. Then afterwards, Audrey acting like a Karen. There's no one moment where someone helps us understand who Audrey is. Funny enough, we have those moments with Audrey's mom where we know more about her, but nothing for Audrey. Aki had a moment where his dad added him to the world, and I wish there was a scene where we saw him deal with that bombshell. Seeing the aftermath, the emotions of his father betraying him would have been a great moment to feel for the character. Or maybe it could have gone even further. What if during that moment of his dad outing him, he tries to reach out but no one is available, and he realizes how he's alone, and he just spirals and has a breakdown. But instead we have a dinner scene where monotonously tells off his dad, and it's really lackluster. Then we have Obi, and his moment was how he joined the protest against his family, but it doesn't really pay off because at this point we don't care about Obi. His issues aren't relatable. Maybe if they had contextualized this problem, maybe we can see it be more relatable to where he uses his power for good, but comes into the realization that it comes at a cost. Like, what if Obi had helped Zoya and her dad stay in their loft by putting up the money, but the funds he uses comes from the sale of the shipyard, and now he has to deal with the aftermath of helping a friend at the expense of others. That would be great to see. Then we can deal with this issue of having the good rich guy facade that he constantly projects onto people to make himself feel better. That would be really interesting, I think. But basically all these characters have a come to Jesus moment that never really pays off, and it's because of the execution of the characterization. Their relationships between one another, especially between Julienne and JC, since it wasn't built well, none of the takedowns or the insults really pay off. Like, why do we care about them insulting each other or fighting or anything happening? Like, you need to establish the relationships first for it to pay off when they betray each other or take down one another. And on to other issues. As I mentioned earlier, the show has this issue of the lack of blackness. Funny enough, Shan, Monet, and Zoya, Julienne all make up half of the cast. And it's nice to see black girls taking up space on a show where it had us on the sidelines. But the way the show uses them for their black aesthetics is so irritating. I can tell they wanted these black girls for clout, which worked because many black YouTubers would talk about the show, and I'm sure it was a hit for black demos on other social media platforms. I mentioned this earlier, but I would love for the series to show some black culture. I would love to see the Dahan household just being black. I would love for Zoya to get her hair done because I know her father isn't doing it. And it would be nice to see Julienne try to connect with her black side as well. Part of the reason why I think JC reached out to Zoya was because she was part of her black identity that she wasn't connected to. Their mother had passed, and coming to see how the only family Jules knows is white, I would love for the series to show Julienne connect with some black people on the show and have some angst coming from a white world. I don't know, something like that. You know, because she's biracial, so something like that. I also love to see Shan be more than the sassy sidekick dark skin character. She better have more depth to her in season 2 because dark skin black girl stereotypes, I'm not here for it. And I have to say this, I hope for the love of God they get a competent hairdresser on that show that can do black hair. There's no reason for Shan's Bantu knots and for Zoya's dad hair to look like this. Shan's Bantu knots, her parts better be as sleek as Zoya's. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense. How are you having Monet and Zoya with these great hairstyles and Shan and Zoya's dad are not on the same caliber? Come on, you guys. We have to do better than this. And also, you know, the white counterparts look good. So, you know, you don't want these two black characters out here looking dusty. Okay, so that's all I have to say on their blackness. Also, I just have to point this out. There's a lot of black girl fighting black girl on the show. Like I said, you know, the black girls make half the cast, so it's inevitable. So I understand why they're doing it, but if you're gonna have black girls fighting each other, please do it well. From what we see in the trailer, we know that Monet is gonna go up against JC for the season 2. And listen, I'm not gonna lie, I would love to see it. I'm gonna live for seeing it. It just needs to be done well. The takedowns are already really bad and shaky, so they need to work on establishing the relationships, establishing why we care about the characters. They need to do that first. And second off, if we're gonna have these black girls fighting each other, everybody better be fighting each other, okay? Can't just be the black girls, okay? Equal messiness everywhere. And speaking of messy takedowns, I already mentioned how the takedowns don't pay off well, but another reason why the takedowns are so terrible is because the writers don't know how to write mean girl Gen Zers. You know what I mean? Like, no one in this day and age is outright mean like Blair Waldorf in the original Gossip Girl. Nowadays, people shroud their meanness with virtue signaling, and so the creators need to take some notes from Do Revenge or Senior Year. The takedowns can be more insidious that way too. Come at it from that angle. Okay, well, that's all my thoughts on Gossip Girl. Hopefully season 2 will be better. Thank you for watching. Please comment down below, like, dislike, all that good stuff. And thanks for watching. Goodbye.